Why a book, and what was the process that went behind writing a cookbook?
Oh, it wasn't a deep thought or anything to start with. I started writing recipes because my brother-in-law asked for some, and I said, fine, I can write them. I made a Christmas present. And then, in the process of writing, it was clear that I was bored out of my mind just listing ingredients and saying brown the onions or something. So I started writing stories to go with the recipes so that it was a little less boring than it would have been otherwise. So that was really, for a long time, that's all that happened. There was 3 years of that. Then I think at some point, I think I it just occurred to me that maybe it is actually a book. And I had sort of this idea one day of writing a cookbook, but I thought maybe I actually have one. So I showed it to Chiki Sarkar, the publisher, and she said, yeah, why not? So then I talked to Cheyenne, who was our au pair and lived with us. And and then the real process of turning it into a book started, because it's easy to have recipes. It's not easy to have a book.
And any specific dish, Dr. Banerjee, that you're very fond of, or like when it comes to Indian food?
Dal. I think I've said this many times in the book and in the press. I think if I had to pick one thing to take with me to a desert island, I would take dal roti or dal chawal or something.
Why dal? Because dal is not so much from the part of the country that you're coming from, because we have very bland dal. If you go to north of
I
India,
don't know. I don't know how you could say that. I mean, in the cookbook we have two examples of dal from Bengal. One is actually three examples. All of them. One of them is. I mean, if you think of, but one of them is a, a thick roasted mung dal with cauliflower and tomatoes, which is extraordinarily rich. You could just eat that as a main course, and I think I often do, basically. One is a very light mung dal with lime leaves, and that's extraordinarily fragrant and light, and but it's not bland. It's extremely flavorful. And the third one is maybe the most sort of bland of them, which is a kind of a comforting dal, masoor dal with carrots.
Yeah, so I think in Foretaste, you mentioned how Afghani pulao and spinach pachedi, basically, it is the orange, the greens, and everything is symbolic of the harmony that India represents at various levels. Uh, and you say that it is long forgotten. So, how do you relate food with this lack of harmony that you say, or the harmony that you say is long forgotten?
The fundamental fact about India, which goes back to this harmony point, is that if you look at the average meat consumption of an Indian Muslim versus an Indian Hindu Bengali, there's almost no difference. I mean, there's just really, I think the amount of, nobody eats a lot of meat. And
Yeah.
it's just this whole thing of obsession with, this particular meat or that particular meat. It seems to me to be misses the main point, which is that our diets are actually traditional diets in India are actually relatively based on local produce
Yeah.
that's relatively sustainable. In Bengal, we eat lots of seafood, and
Yeah.
if you're Muslim, you're Christian, you're Hindu, you eat the same thing, which is
Yeah.
lots of seafood and vegetables, and
Mm.
those grow wild, and you can get lots of it, and everything else is kind of expensive and out of reach. And the reason why, I'm not saying we don't eat meat because of ideological reasons. It's expensive, and people
Yeah.
eat what's cheap.
so Dr. Banerjee, now the tomato prices are really going up. Can you suggest a dish which can we do a one-pot meal without tomatoes?
Sure, tomatoes are, I think, overused again in Indian
Yeah.
food, and in some sense, we have so many of the souring agents, which tamarind is wonderful.
Mm.
in the south, the same potato dish that you will make with tomatoes in the north, in the south you'll get them with coconut and tamarind,
Yeah.
or even with lemon juice. You can make we do aloo bhate with tomato. Aloo bhate is, Shane, it's boiled and mashed potatoes with tomato. In the south, they do it with again mashed potatoes with lime. And so I think that this is not to say that I don't have a theory of why tomato prices are so high right now, and I hope they come down, and I hope people get to eat tomatoes. But I wouldn't say that. I think there's often dishes which I think where tomatoes are not needed, we overuse it. So I think it's also good to investigate all the traditional sours of India.
Thank you
Is
so
that
much
good?
for your